Hello, friends. Sergeant Host Eric here with Vice Admiral Lieutenant Sub-Captain Anthony of the Space Type Police, more recently of the regular Earth Police Type Police, and welcome to a very exciting and special edition of Type Police in which we are going to go after a big fish after this theme song. Try as you might, you just can't hide, 'cause you're mistyped. And I've been waiting to pull you over all night. Type police, type police. Please pull that guy over. He says he's INTP, but seems extroverted sensing to me. I think he's ESTP or type police. So, today we're looking at a gentleman named Damon Gray. You can see his face right here on the screen. And he claimed, he has an odd claim. Now, he can go to jail just for this odd claim that he has, which is that he's an ESTP in socionics, but an ENTJ in my system.
I think it was a way of me rising up and saying, look, I'm going to step on top. I'm going to be in charge of this whole thing. I'm going to run this motherfucker is what my whole plan was. So I wanted to demonstrate how much power I could muster and what I could get done and how I could get it done. So that is what was the beginning of what I call a possible journey downward into a very, very, very unfortunate path had I continued that. So I got out of that and moved to Texas, got mentorship from a Chinese sage.
What are you thinking about this Chinese sage fellow?
I think I just don't even know what to say about that. I heard that and I was like, what?
I mean, you get your wisdom where you find it. Chinese sage, maybe. India.
Where do you find the Chinese sage?
China. Or Chinatown.
But he found one in Texas.
Obviously in Chinatown in Texas. In a hidden shop with mystical words over it. And we walked in there.
Actual Chinese sage? Like
the herb?
herb?
No. I think he means a sage-like Chinese man. An old Chinese man with wisdom.
Oh.
The story of his life, basically, of having a difficult time of it in childhood, of acting out in a way that was sort of antisocial, and then of changing course and moving to Texas and meeting this old Chinese man. So, in that regard, you might say there's an SI basis to things here, but that's not actually indicative, I don't think, of SI necessarily. It's really a matter of whether he's got details that are linked to specific events.
The specific timeline he's talking about is he just said that there was kind of a power struggle, I guess, with his parents. He didn't really do too well with their regime, so to speak.
Yeah, it's more of an NI style story about one's own history than it is an SI style story. But that could be consistent with the ESTP too, because they got fifth thought ignoring. Yeah. Actually, let's watch a little bit of Taylor and see if we know the contrast. I'll go back to 745.
And causing problems, but I will one up you. I had a girlfriend whose mom tried to get me killed. Two of the neighbors in two different houses completely worked the fuck up about what just a danger I was. They both went out and got guns, and she just sort of set that in motion so that if I drove down the street, if I stopped in front of the house, there'd be 9mm flying at me.
But what the fuck? How did he provoke these people to this?
Well, Damon started, basically he articulated being fairly antisocial in his dealings with his girlfriends and stuff, and if their family gave any pushback, how he tried to destroy their family dynamic and stuff. So I guess Taylor's saying he had a similar amount of conflict with a family of a girlfriend, but it doesn't sound like he's articulating anything that he did that was particularly antisocial, although he may have, but that's not included in the story.
One thing you said that I found interesting was that you almost got killed by some girls. She set you up and tried to kill you. The same thing happened to me. I got set up in the sense of I showed up to this girl's house and they had already they already expected me there, and the dad actually had his shotgun ready. So the minute I pulled up, he started shooting. I pulled out into the street. I got blocked off. I got chased by a dog. I hopped a fence, and then I ran down the street. And the whole thing was that the girl had actually accused me of being the guy that's after her little sister, who's 12 years old. Therefore, they thought I was some pedo trying to pick up this little girl. It was just a terrible situation in which I almost died. And I came back, and on my way home, I got pulled over. And that was a wonderful night that I had lived. And yeah, I almost got my ass chewed by a dog too. Got shot at, and I got chased by a dog and hopped a fence.
So that's a lot more SI, but I'm not sure quite what to make of it. It's so memorable that who wouldn't, even SI Polar would remember being shot at, surely.
Yeah, cut my losses.
Well, I mean, first thing you got to do is piss off her family a whole bunch, which I don't think you do, probably.
Probably not. My word. Like a common thing, do ESTPs share stories about getting shot at and stuff?
Well, I think that
they try to one-up each other with their crazy events.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of one-upmanship amongst ESTPs probably, and maybe even between ESTPs and ENTPs. But the thing is, most of your like sexual conquest types are probably ESTPs, but that doesn't necessarily mean most ESTPs are sexual conquest types. You know, I think that there are a fair number of ESTPs out there who choose commitment overall and prefer committed relationships. You know, I don't think it necessarily goes with the territory that you're going to be a puss slayer just because you're an ESTP. Now the chicks, maybe, I mean, I think they're maybe more likely to be promiscuous for a stretch, for sure, because it's just sort of naturally easier for chicks, and they don't have to do the work per se.
And very huge negative is technology being integrated into kids' lives. I think I was 15 or 16 when I got my first cell phone. And before then, it was more of the, hey, look, let's actually be social. Let's spend time with people. Let's talk to people. Let's hang out with people. So now I think it's affected the social aspect, but I also think it's affected a lot of other things too. Exposure to things that you don't want your kids, raising a child all the way up. I think that technology has a huge impact on that too. I mean, how much control do you really have?
It's a weird thing, right? To be like technology is getting in the way of people really communicating or doing things or something.
Yeah, I think aside from thinking of SE as like just doing things in general, I think it's like a linkage to the environment and the moment. And I think technology sort of separates people from that. And I think it's something that an ESTP would probably notice more than ENTJ.
SE is very much about like, well, let's return to the sensory realm. And what we're doing right now is let's sit up here in the intuitive realm. And so the question then becomes, well, what's more real? You know, for a sensor, they're going to conclude that the sensory realm is more real. But so too for an ENTJ with third slot SE. That's where they're going to feel their attainment, their achievement. They're going to assume everybody else does as well. When their kids get caught up in technology, they're assuming their kids are denying themselves the capacity to feel achievement or attainment because it's their scorecard. I think an SE Dom is going to have a more nuanced understanding of technology because they have 8th slot NE, so their role function naturally is to go into the their sub-instrumental function is to go into this metaphysical place and do the ideational stuff. Whereas I think an ENTJ is going to find it necessarily that you ultimately got to do shit to feel satisfied.
I agree with the second part, but that first part, I don't know. It feels like, in my experience at least, it seems like SE DOMs kind of are a little bit more removed from the virtual world, whereas an ENTJ can find the utility in it and like playing the game, and then like seeing the real world. The feedback that they would get from it, I don't know.
Look, I mean, the thing is, an ENTJ has countervalued extroverted intuition. I'm curious to see what Taylor says about. Remember, this is also about technology in the hands of their children, saying that kids shouldn't have technology.
Okay.
So it's not them saying themselves shouldn't, because they're both engaged right now as they're saying this in a video conference. But it's a little bit more SE real than say a text conversation or something. Let's see what Taylor has to say about kids and technology and see if he agrees or not.
You've got exposure and things that you're trying to teach your kid, but they're exposed to the entire world's worth of information at their fingertips. And if they don't have a phone, their friends have phones. It's like, what can
and
you
it's
really
different
do?
from when we got phones. When we got phones in high school, it was a device to facilitate social interaction.
Right.
Where are you guys at? Who's picking up beer? Shit like that. Now it removes them from it. So there's a whole thing about like this, the psychology of social media, and I think that psychological state is really what I worry about more than anything. Is my daughter growing up with the mindset of,
Can we pause?
this is reality. Likes are what's important, presenting a fake image to the machine.
I mean, what would be your proposed solution, do you think, to this potential issue? Have you thought about it? I mean, what do you do currently to kind of negate the effects of that situation in which you just explained? As in, this is the reality that's being put at our fingertips. This is the things that we're exposed to.
She doesn't have, I think Instagram is the only social media account that she has. And she's got a YouTube channel. Most of her digital interfacing is games. I'm comfortable. I really haven't had to deal with any.
Taylor displayed what you were talking about, and that there was a little bit more nuance in like how he perceived technology in relationship to reality, and how like he just cares about his daughter seeing the difference between the two. And
doesn't it seem like Damon's using tool function NI, right? Doesn't it seem like?
He's got an abstract subjective impression. It's like it's I don't know. It does seem like
he's
NI.
collapsed technology and kids down to this NI hole rather than Taylor's particularist parsing of it, which says, he goes, well, what's my solution to this? Because he's thinking in terms of this NI shit you're putting out there in the second slot doesn't deserve to be treated particularly on its merits. That there is no singular solution to this. It's not that kind of problem. That it doesn't collapse. That it is instead particularist to the individual kid and the individual parents and what they're looking to do and their values and yada, yada, yada. So this is what I do. And it shows the difference between, I think, an ENTJ and an ESTP. The ESP, Taylor would never ask that question. He'd never ask, well, what's the solution? Because we're TE countervalued. Whereas Damon is NE countervalued. He's looking for solvency to a single problem.
Whatever you wanted to call him, telling me that there was a certain way to live and there's not a certain way to live, and everything that I was doing was not right. And I was like, okay. And he explained it well. He gave me good perspective and helped calm that down. But ultimately, I did not have a system until I started looking at typology and trying to understand why I was doing what I was doing. And so I still battle with this conflict. Is peace necessary or is war necessary? And I think at times my girlfriend she'll see me getting worked up about something, and it's not something that she feels deserves my energy. And so she tells me, like, before you get upset, before you start getting pissed off, before you wanting to take somebody down, you need to relax, because it's not that big a deal. And it's like, people are going to say what they say. People are going to do what they do. And I'm like, well, somebody needs to put them in their place. I want to teach them a lesson. I want them to feel what it's like to be humbled.
That sounded super alpha. And it sounds like he wants a structure from the environment, whereas an ESTP would be more go with the flow type with the environment. An ESTP would not focus on that, I don't think. But what do you think?
Well, I think there's the point in there that's most accurate is that a tool function ESTP TI user doesn't use it necessarily to validate externals. Although if engaging in any particular external, they'll probably use TI on it. But I'm saying the TI, the whole thing of whatever it is they're evaluating can be TI unsound and still valid if you're a TI tool user, because it's instrumental. So, like, for example, IFS, Internal Family Systems, is not TI validated at all. But I love it, and I think it's a great TE approach to therapy or whatever. So that's an example of something that I don't need to be TI validate. I need NI validate for it to be legitimate for me. So what he's saying there is, if shit doesn't TI validate, he feels a compelling need to go set the shit straight. But the thing is,
TI?
I think that's what he's saying. When he's saying if they're wrong, I need to go correct them and set the shit straight and put them in their place or whatever. But I think ultimately that doesn't really have much to do with functions. I think that has much more to do with a negrum, and that's a very 8 response to things, is to get angry at things you think are wrong and want to go fucking put your foot up their ass.
I think you're right about like the approach maybe, and like how he's sort of packaging how to deal with it. But I think his focus is very different from Taylor's.
Taylor would probably respond, and we'll see if he does after this, with something that links back to him again. Well, if somebody tries to pull a dominance move on me, then I'm gonna come at him with pow pow pow. That's more an ESTP understanding of things. What Damon is saying doesn't link back to himself really. And we did get that one SI story of him getting shot at, but like I said, I mean, polar doesn't mean you don't have it, it doesn't exist. It just means that you don't use it in normal ways. But even anybody would remember the details of being shot at, I'm sure. You probably don't get shot at very often in life, hopefully. That's why they started issuing us these type guns. You can set it to any particular type, or you could set it to mistype. So if you shoot a bunch of people, it'll only kill the mistyped ones. The bullet can tell. It's a very highly designed bullet with a lot of AI in it.
That particular topic, I remember I was having a discussion with somebody a while back, and I was talking about like I think it was child abuse, and that is a subject that I completely get pissed off about. Like, I don't even want to debate about it. It's like I'm going to lose my cool. And so I was naturally having a discussion about it, and I just lost my cool, and within like 5 to 10 minutes of it. And I think that was one of the issues that I don't know if you experience anything like that. Do you feel that, do you get passionate about certain subjects and then people might perceive it as anger or intensity? This guy's getting really intense, or do you?
At 2716, that's FI what he's talking about. I know that feeling now. I know exactly what it is. There are certain subjects I don't want to talk about, and it makes me angry if I get any pushback about them. Things about my family in particular. And I recognize that the reason I don't want to explain why I'm right or justify myself is because it's an FI matter. And that's exactly what he's talking about there.
Yeah. Let it keep going so we can hear. I was slightly ahead. Let it keep going so we can hear, what's it called? Taylor's response. It's very different.
Do you have any of those?
Oh, sure. For sure. Basically anything surrounding laws, and not just from a criminal justice point, but even before and beyond that, just who can tell who, what to do. The secondhand smoke. You remember when smoking sections in restaurants started shutting down everywhere? And all businesses were sort of crowding out the smokers. One of the arguments that would just drive me fucking nuts is listening to people, say that should be illegal. Your smoking should be illegal. It should be illegal for you to smoke. It should be illegal for you to smoke within 20 feet of a building. It should be illegal for you to smoke inside of a private building because people work there. It's like, man, get the fuck out of my shit just because you don't like the smell.
She's an applicant to the academy right now, apparently. And, this is part of our Scared Straight program. You got to see what it's really like here on the beat. The dirty reality of it. You got to see what it's like to drag someone off in chains as they're sobbing, begging for mercy, with a pointed gun to their head and say, "Get in the fucking car!" That's what we got to do as type police officers, okay? I can't believe, will you stop saging the fuck out of me? I am so overly saged at this point.
Yeah, so after that last clip that we saw, I'm pretty convinced, now. just because of the dichotomy between him and Taylor. And like Taylor's explanation, he was like upset, like he's upset about infringements of freedom, and then like Damon was like upset about something that he's passionate about, like that he has opinions about.
Damon's upset because children are being abused. Taylor's upset because smokers are being told where they can't smoke with poor argumentation.
Right. Yeah, and it's not necessarily because it affects just him. It's just like it's stupid laws, and that ultimately affects everybody.
Right, and stupid laws that are justified with feelings, basically, that he finds offensive.
Right.
Nobody thinks child abuse laws are stupid. And can't even imagine what kind of argument is Damon having about child abuse in the first place. Like, who's arguing in favor of child abuse?
Yeah. Right.
Okay, well, this is the hardest part of the job, Anthony. Becky, you might just want to stand off to the side and watch, observe, okay? Damon Gray. This is a loaded type gun, and it's got an ENTJ bullet in it right now. It's set to ENTJ. So, unless you're absolutely convinced you're an ESTP, you better get your ass in that car. Anthony, go ahead and cuff his ass. Damon Gray, you are going to type jail. You may be the first ENTJ in type jail who's misidentified as an ESTP that I can recall on type police. I don't think we've ever had one before. It's going to be a lonely stay. But I got to tell you, you're not in for a treat at the court hearing either, because you're also guilty of saying that you're a different type in different systems, which is its own crime.
You're going to slammer.
There we go. Boom. Double door. Boom. Try as you might, you just can't hide, 'cause you're mistyped. And I've been waiting to pull you over all night. Type police, type police, please pull that guy over. He says he's INTP, but seems extroverted, sensing to me. I think he's ESFP or type police.
Yeah.
Becky, do you have any opinion about the type of Damon Gray?
ENTJ.
Maximum security.